Well, off the back again that you can look but you can't touch treatment from a few big clubs during the course of yesterday's episode. We're still here at Jahn Regensburg about to play our first couple of games up in the Bundesliga as we take on Köln and then host the Hoffenheim team, who of course offered us their job interview in yesterday's episode. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 54 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM, still with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and come up day. Going to play our first two games up in the Bundesliga. We take on Cologne away from home to kick off our season, and then we host the Hoffenheim team that I'm very keen to get one over on off the back of what happened during the course of yesterday's episode, which if you did miss, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Ran through most of the transfers that we did and also had a couple of job interview offers. We got 4 of them. We went to 3, 2 from in the Bundesliga, one of course from Anderlecht over in Belgium, which the Mainz manager beat us to that good old 1 point that he beat us to the title by last season, and also Sassuolo, but we got none of those jobs. We're still here at Jahn Regensburg, but while that was going on, we did do some quite handy transfer business. Here's a recap of what we did once the new season did tick over, and there's been one more move that has gone through. As we suggested late on during the course of that episode, Ethan Batera did come in from Ajax for £210,000, just to be a bit of an extra body for us there. At centre-back, it seemed quite a cheap fee, considering the quite decent potential there of 4 stars. We'll see how much game time he does get, the 23-year-old Belgium, but I thought that was a good little deal there, just to make sure we had some quite good depth there at centre-back, to make sure that if we get injuries, we should still be okay, without needing to use anyone who's too rubbish just yet from down in our under-19. So I think that will complete our transfer business. The end of August is when the window does close, of course, not too long before that will be the case, might even be before the game I play off the back of these two in today's episode. But one game that I've played off camera, it was the first round of the DFB Pokal we took on a local TV station somewhere in Germany in Eimsbüttel, and picked up a 3-0 when we started this game with pretty much a full rotation. And to be fair, it was a rather scratchy performance in terms of us actually putting the ball in the net, but in the end we got a penalty there just after half-time through Toby Colliger, and then brought in some more first-team players late on and they made a difference. Rene Muller with his first goal for the club with 10 minutes to go, and then Matthew Stollery as we just made our way into injury time. You can see the match momentum well and truly on the front foot, obviously helped out the XG-wise by the penalty, which we did put away, but certainly a dominant performance. And that does mean we've made our way through to the second round of the DFB Pokal, where at the end of October, we'll take on Stuttgart. That'll be quite interesting, quite happy that we've got a Bundesliga team that aren't Bayern Munich for the first time early on here in the DFB Pokal. They're expected to finish 9th, so it's a smack bang mid-table team here in the Bundesliga. They have just lost to Wolfsburg 2-0 on the opening day of the Bundesliga season, but to be fair, that game is still a fair while away, but it does look a little bit more winnable than what we've got in the last couple of years. But what that transfer there of Batera does mean for the season preview for our first one here in the Bundesliga is we're expected to finish last. Not too sure how that's happened, because yesterday I'm pretty sure we were 17th, but we're joint there with Mainz and somehow just behind a Nuremberg team, who were the team that came off through the playoff last season, finishing a good 10 or so points behind us. Not too sure how Nuremberg are above both us and Mainz, but Mainz and us were pretty similar last season in terms of the points that we did get. We were a little bit unlucky in not picking up the title over those guys thanks to a goalkeeping injury. So I'd like to think that hopefully we can find a way to be better than those two teams, in particular Mainz, with a new manager off the back of their one getting their Anderlecht job over us. So I'd like to think we can be better than Mainz, and we should still be better than Nuremberg. So fingers crossed at the very worst we'll end up in that promotion relegation game with the 3rd place team from these 5 Bundesliga. But hopefully as well, we might end up being better than a team like Bochum or Union Berlin, as long as we can keep ourselves up here in the Bundesliga come the end of the season. That would be a win. Of course, there could still be some interest in us during the course of the season, seeing as we did not get a move during the transfer window. But first up today, we take on Cologne. You can see them there, expected to finish 12th to be fair, despite the fact this is away from home. It looks like a relatively decent game for us first up here in the Bundesliga, albeit their first round of DFB Pokal. They picked up a 6-0 win, so they might come to this one with a bit more confidence. Will be interesting to see if they actually played a full-strength team for that one, unlike us with quite a bit of rotation, but they like a 4-3-3 there through Marcel Rep. They've got the likes of Bissek there, as well as Nagayama, a young German new gen who has come through, must be partially Japanese, but of course in this saver, we've got a tribute masking on, so not much point checking out here just how good some of these players are, but Bissek is quite a handy one. Have heard him before in some previous saves here on FM24. So this is an interesting first up game for us. Fingers crossed we can find a way to take some points off these guys. You'll notice the table so far. The promoted teams alongside us have not got off to great starts. Mainz, they suffered a 2-goal defeat there, beaten 3-1 by Dortmund, to be fair. That is a pretty brutal first up fixture. So not too sure how much we were into Mainz quite at this point. In Nuremberg are down near the bottom off the back of a 5-2 defeat to Hamburg. So those two teams, not a great start, but to be fair, their first couple of games do look a little bit tougher than what we've got. So fingers crossed we might be able to make the most of that and get ourselves away from the relegation zone nice and early, but we'll see how things go. Not expected to do too well here this season, so let's hope we can find a way to overachieve yet again for this first game too. The analysts suggest that we go with the 4-2-3-1. So that's what we're doing here first up this season. Just one injury that we picked up off the back of that DFB Pokal game. Matthew Stollery, a sports hernia, 4 to 5 weeks, but to be fair, he's our third choice left winger going into this season anyway, so it won't impact us too much. Going here with our best 11 going into the start of this new season, and it is pretty much what you'd expect considering the attributes, albeit just one change. Racine Bullock comes in there in the ball wing midfield role. Unfortunately, our new signing in Giuseppe Losa, not quite too familiar with playing a bit further forward yet compared to a bit further back. So Bullock will start in this game, and Lopez, he misses through a suspension. So that's the only real change in force stance here first up in today's episode, but apart from that, that's the team that we want to put out. Aaron Ramsey coming back from a little bit of an injury during pre-season, only recommended for 75 minutes, so at some stage we'll have to take him off probably for Adama Kamara, but the only new faces in the actual starting lineup are Johan Tabukuya, who we got from Bournemouth. A little bit surprised we actually got him with some Premier League interest in him. He's there at left wing with Milliken as the backup on the bench, the American that we signed, and also up front we've got in Rene Miller off the back of the sale to Saudi Arabia of Leighton Stewart. He looks like a very nice signing considering we only spent 900k on him, and as a backup it was 1 million for the Vente Toff, who to be fair was a bit average in that cup game, but fingers crossed he does a bit better here as an impact player off of the bench. And also down on that bench we do have La Rosa as a backup ball wing midfielder, quite promising Italian that we got from Genoa. And as well as that, American, who we mentioned was our new backup left winger. So only a few new faces here in the team that will go with most of the season if there's no injuries and whatnot. So fingers crossed the fact these guys know our tactic should help us pick up some points, maybe more than if we did a big old tear and rebuild here with this Jahn Regensburg team, because we've been quite consistent so far. Haven't lost that many games the last year or so ever since we did use our slight adaptation of the Buxton base here. It took us a wee while to actually go to it at Jahn Regensburg off the back of a bit of a struggle our first season here in this Bundesliga, but now we're up to the big time with a system that we know suits our players, and we did our transfers around. The only player in there who maybe could argue shouldn't be is Sousa over Dorn based on attributes, but Sousa was absolutely ridiculous for us last season, picking up something like 18 assists, more assists than our top goal scorer got in Leighton Stewart in terms of his goal output. To Sousa, absolute weapon for us there as that wing back on attack down our left-hand side. Fingers crossed that continues into this new season. But they're Cologne going with a 4-3-3. We are going with our 4-2-3-1. Expect us again to switch quite regularly between that and the 4-3-3, depending on what our analyst says, especially this season, because we're taking on a lot of teams, but we've got no previous experience with, and even Bayern, we've taken them on, and it's just really hard to tell what's going to work against those guys because they're so blooming good. So we'll see how we go here first up in the Bundesliga away at Cologne. If we can get a point from this game, that would probably be quite a nice start. I'm expecting us to be a bit tougher to beat at home, so that Hoffenheim game would be really nice if we can beat those guys, especially with a new manager. Let's see how we get on here though first up. Not too bad in the early stages. The first highlight though, it is for the home team. They're in the white today. We are in the red. They played it one in there. We try and get a foot on. It falls back out there to one of their attackers. Thankfully, he puts that one just over the bar. So a bit there of a sketchy first highlight, but thankfully they blaze it over the bar and it remains 0-0. But stats-wise, this game is very even. Our XG though extremely poor 0.01, not too great. We now got a throw in here inside of the final third. Sousa pulls that one back to Manrique, puts it away in the bottom right corner. Lino Sousa already with an assist to Beefy, not quite as good as some of the ones he got here last season, but we take a 1-0 lead away at Cologne, so this would be a dream start if we could get something from this first game of the season. Sousa gets that one back there from Manrique. Nice little pass there in between the gap. That shot might have taken a slight defection, but no own goal, so it must have been on target. And Carlos Manrique, who continues to be an absolutely great performer for us there in that deep line playmaker or box-to-box role when we do switch to the 4-3-3, gives us a 1-0 lead, and it looks like that might be how it stays as we go into halftime. In the 1 minute there of added going into the sheds, we've got a 1-0 lead with only 0.17 XG, ever so slightly on the front foot. So to be fair, I'm pretty happy with how that first half went. A couple of players out there going a bit fairly on 6.5s, in particular our striker and Rene Muller. But we probably want to give him some game time out there as long as possible, especially as he came off the bench in that DFB Pokal game and got us a goal to make sure that we put some distance there on the TV channel crew that we did take on. So we're doing okay currently with this 1-0 lead. Fingers crossed that we can hold on to it. Now to work, we're actually dropping down to a 6.4. So at the hour mark, it might not be a bad idea here to give a debut American who was out with a slight injury for that first game that we did play in the DFB Pokal. And also, we might take off Ramsey, play things safe here at the hour mark instead of in 15 minutes time for Adama Kamara. So a couple of subs there, just some players who need a bit of rest and also who aren't performing too well in our attack. And hopefully the guys coming on can grab a cushion goal. But now it's here Cologne who are on the ball from a free kick about 5 minutes off back of that sub that we did make. Just knocking it about here in the defence. Lawrence plays that one there to Killian. I think that might be down the right-hand side. It goes out there to FIFA, and now they start to make their way forward quite easily, somehow finding a ton of space. Now, goalkeeper there on Lukic does get beaten from an angle he probably shouldn't be, just inside of that right-hand upright, and they make it 1-1. Was just about there to make a change. We'll wait until this replay does go through, but they play a nice ball forward there, and our defence down our left-hand side does get dragged out of line all sorts, and in the end, a lot of players there who get in behind. Down that right-hand side, Ruslan can't cover. Lukic maybe should be doing a little bit better, and it goes to 1-1. Now we're going to take off here Bullish going fairly on a 6.4, a debut for La Rosa, and also Ostiach or Jimenez, seeing as he's just picked up a yellow card. So unfortunately, we blow a lead here in this first game of the season, but fingers crossed we can hold on and make sure we get something from this first game up in the Bundesliga. But be fair, away from home, you're probably not expecting it too much as a newly promoted team, but Cologne did look like quite a kind game to get first up. With about 10 minutes left, we'll take off here Muller going fairly on that 6.5 still. Let's see if Toff can make an impact off the bench, and also we might just try, not too sure if it's the best idea, but going a bit higher tempo and see if that might create some late chances, because to be fair, so far the second half we have not been up to a heck of a lot as we make our way into 5 minutes of added time. Unfortunately, Sousa has picked up an orange injury. Fingers crossed it's not too serious, won't keep him out of that Hoffenheim game. And now, with just about a minute left, there is a goal kick. They pump that one deep, thankfully get it back. Now Sousa plays it back to Lukic, Ignatjev, Ruslan will find their Manrique in our midfield. Sousa starts to make his way forward, plays that one back there to Manrique. Kamara will go forward to Toff, and now we get pressed a little bit and go back to our defence all the way back to Lukic. So hopefully the fact we're keeping the ball here does mean that this chance might be ours to be fair, despite the fact we're going higher tempo. We're not going too much in terms of trying to go forward too soon, but that pass from American is an absolute shocker. Lopez now on the attack, and somehow Bahoya gets in behind, can put that one away, and with only 30 seconds left, we might have blown a 1-0 lead and are about to get beaten 2-1 in our Bundesliga debut. American, a terrible debut from him, because that pass is an absolute shocker, and he's now on a 6.4. That might have even been before that pass to get registered in the end. Ruslan again having to tidy up someone else's bad work there, and that will be all she wrote in this game. 2 second half goals there to Bahoya off the back of a Manrique one in the first half, and we get beaten 2-1. A bit filthy there on that pass from our American left winger. Maybe we need to bring Stollery back onto the bench once he recovers, because that might be quite useful. Someone a bit more familiar with our tactic, but that's not good for American. To be fair, our first choice left winger there into Burken was not too good either. I'm pretty sure that was the name of the player that we did sign from Bournemouth He's a new gen, I'm pretty sure, so even if we've offended him, it won't matter because he's not real. But that's a bit frustrating. Really should have got something out of our first game there. It was Tabukuya, that's his name. But yeah, a little bit disappointing. We've got nothing out of that after taking a 1-0 lead in the first half. Fingers crossed Seuss is not injured or anything like that. We can come back and take something off of Hoffenheim at home. So a frustrating late defeat there for us first up in this Bundesliga season. A 96-minute goal there under our good work in the first half. So nothing from our trip to Cologne. And also, there was an injury to Lino Sousa. It was a pulled hamstring, so I'm a bit surprised that he didn't get taken off from the field there. It only popped up for some reason as an orange injury. He's out for 3 days to 2 weeks, so that is a little bit of a blow. But to be fair, Dawn, tribute-wise, should be better. So hopefully Dawn can step in there in that left-back role. Also, American, some blisters out for 1 day. Must have got those when he played that shocking pass, which did prove costly, the former SKC man. Yeah, I believe that now because that was absolutely awful from him not to Hots. American is also missing for this game, so it does mean that Max Meyer comes onto the bench, and we've got Bossio coming up from our B team to cover left back as well. And also, we're taking on a Hoffenheim team who apparently do suit being played against with a 4-3-3. So we'll switch there here for this game. Don't think we were too bad with the 4-2-3-1, but maybe the 4-3-3 might just make us a little bit better here in the second game of the season, despite those changes, as we take on a Hoffenheim team expected to finish about mid-table. They did start off quite nicely though, taking points off Bayern at home, so that is a bit of a concern. Denny Roll, the former Bochum manager, did beat us to that job during the off-seasons. Really do want to get one over these guys here in our first home game of the season and hopefully prove that they should have gone for us instead of their man from Bochum. So fingers crossed here, we can at least grab something in the second game. No points from our first two would be pretty bad, it's fair to say. So fingers crossed here, we pick up something from this game. Mines have got off to a dreadful start though. -6 goal differential off the back of a 4-0 defeat against Eintracht Frankfurt. So they might be in trouble off the back of their manager ditching them for Anderlecht. Maybe Jahn Regensburg have got a bit lucky that we did not win the title last season, because we might be there instead of Baumgart. But the changes to our first 11 for the second game of today's episode, Dawn comes in for the injured Sousa, and also Lopez back in the team from that suspension. So hopefully that does mean we're a little bit stronger, especially in defensive midfield. Did think Bilic was pretty average in that first game, so he might be on the verge of dropping out. As we mentioned, the bloke we signed there from Genoa in La Rosa does have quite a bit more potential, so maybe that's a sign that Bilic does need to move down to the B team and just be used in cases which are an absolute emergency. But fingers crossed that Lopez coming back in does help, as well as the switch to the 4-3-3, which our analyst does say should suit this Hoffenheim team. We are about to take on no Sousa. Fingers crossed that doesn't prove too costly, because as I said here last season, an absolute chance magnet for us and set up our only goal of that first game we did play away at Cologne. So fingers crossed that Dawn can step up here and match his output in this upcoming game, where we do take on Hoffenheim, start off the season by taking points off Bayern. So we'll see how this goes. It was at home for them, but any team who can take points off Bayern are probably going to be a bit better than us. So maybe not getting that job is a little bit more of a concern than we thought it might be. But let's see how we go. Early highlight here, only 5 minutes and a throw down our right-hand side. Inside the final third, Jimenez up there to Lewis Walden. That one does come off the bench, but thankfully goes back out there to Tabukuya, who will pick up a goal. So thankfully he might be going better here than he did on his debut at Cologne. We take a lead, and this time a little bit earlier than we did in that first game. So again, we're in front, but this time at home, fingers crossed, we actually can hold on to it. Nice shot there from Walden. It just came off the woodwork. Thankfully, Tabukuya, right place, right time to get off the mark for us here at Jahn Regensburg. So 1-0 lead, nice and early. And now Hoffenheim are going to be forced to try and make their way out from back. They take it short there from that goal kick. And so far, actually doing a decent job here in pressing, albeit now Kovacevic will find himself in a bit of space there down the left-hand side. Some slightly average defending there from the goal scorer. Now they get on the attack somehow. Keep that ball there from Hozek, but thankfully that one trying to curve it top right corner does just go over the bar. So we hold on to our 1-0 lead. Fingers crossed this time we can keep a clean sheet, because last season our defence down in these via Bundesliga was very, very good. It's one of the few areas we haven't done too many signings in, apart from the backup goalkeeper. Decent chance again there for Hoffenheim. think that shot took a deflection, but thankfully Lukic does come up there with a decent save to beat Lingbar. Our new backup did look quite good in the DFB pocket. Not that he got tested too much. If Lukic starts to underperform, that's definitely a move that we can make, because our backup goalkeeper now does actually look somewhat capable. But now we're back on the ball here, just shy of the half-hour mark. Lukic plays that one forward to Lopez, and now Ramsey out to Walden, who did help create that first goal, which we did score. Now we will float this one far post. The goalkeeper comes and punches it clear, not too convincing. Manrique pretty much had an open net there, but couldn't quite put it on target. It's a big chance there for us to potentially make it 2-0. Instead, we're only a goal up, and now it's a poor pass there. I think that was from Dawn, but thankfully the shot is safe from Lukic, albeit not too sure why we're looking so hectic trying to make our way out from the back. But thankfully, that highlight is not too harmful, despite the poor play there. I'm pretty sure that was from Uwe Dawn, and we hold on to our 1-0 lead. So we're certainly looking a little bit more panicky at the back this season already. A late free kick there to Hoffenheim, but thankfully Borussia puts that one just over the top right corner, just like Hosek did earlier in that first half. And again, we've got a lead going into half-time, so fingers crossed this time we can hold on. Now Lopez going fairly Racine Bullock. He'll come on off the bench. Still looks a little bit better than LaRosa, so that's the reason that we've got Bullock here on our bench for this game. Someone a little bit more experienced and with a bit more of a senior head on his shoulders in terms of the squad dynamics that might help as some bench impact here in this one. And now Uwe Dawn picks up an early yellow card. Now what we could do is bring on young Busio, but to be fair, Jimenez, I'm pretty sure from memory, looked actually quite decent as a left back as well as a right back. So maybe the smart move is to switch him out left and bring on Ostić there at right back for the remainder of the second half. So we'll see how that goes here off the back of that yellow card. Dawn wasn't doing too badly, but that yellow card is a concern. But now Jimenez will pick one up to a debut here for Luigi Bossio. Let's see what he can do, a man that we did pick up on a free as a third choice left back. But so far, we are holding on here to our 1-goal lead as we hit the hour mark. Our ratings out there aren't too bad again, apart from Muller, who still sits on a 6.5. So fingers crossed that he might improve soon. So far, our starting strikers this season have not gone too good, but hopefully now a chance for us here to make it 2-0 thrown inside of the final third, float that one far post, but unfortunately Roman gets to it before Lewis Walden can. They'll try and make their way though out from back, but to be fair, doing a quite decent job already making their way towards halfway, but thankfully Tubercle there with a good interception. Now Walden will find Ostić back in there for Lewis. Walden takes on the shot from a bit of a tight angle, but this time he sneaks it inside of that far post, and we've got our buffer goal, so fingers crossed there. We're going to pick up 3 points in our second game of the season and beat a team who could have had us as the manager, which is always quite nice work there from Tubercle with the interception, although it wasn't a great pass. We get it out right there. Ostić and Walden do link up quite nicely, and off the back of that, we will make some subs. We'll take off Ramsey, still coming back from injury for Kamara again. Also, let's actually bring on Toff there for Muller while he is struggling. So our last couple of subs off the back of taking that 2-0 lead. Fingers crossed, some fresh legs do make sure we hold on and pick up all 3 points. We'll be just about to make our way towards the final 10 minutes. A free kick here to Hoffenheim. We defended horrendously. They put it away there from Schutten, and he's not even going to check for offside. So that is some woeful defending. We've got a wall there for some reason, and no one defending in behind it. That is some shocking work. Set piece coach, you might need to sack off the back of that. And all of a sudden, Hoffenheim, off the back of not looking too threatening before then, have made it 2-1. And Lewis Walden also with an orange injury. But now, off the back of that goal, let's start to time waste just a little bit and tell our goalkeeper to slow things down. But that really is a super soft goal to be conceding. Will be a bit filthy if that's the one that costs us some points here now that it's 2-1. But now we'll make our way into the final 5 minutes. Let's time waste even more and chuck those wing backs onto fullbacks instead. That should hopefully mean that they're a bit more smart defensively. But apart from that, not too sure if we need to do too much. Lewis Walden, let's hope that injury to him not quite as serious as what Sousa picked up in that previous game, which ended up being a bit more long-term than I thought it might be. But now we make our way into 6 minutes of added time. Thankfully, fingers crossed, it's going quite quickly, and there were no highlights in extra times. And then that soft goal we conceded from that free kick to Shooten doesn't hurt us too much. Early goal there to Tabuki and Walden. He got one himself there just as we were about to make our way into those final 15 minutes before that soft goal that we did concede. So a 2-1 winner. We'll take them how we get them here in our first season in the Bundesliga. Walden, obviously, the man of the match. He doesn't get the assist for that Tabuki goal, but probably should with his one come off the woodwork, and then make sure that we pick up all 3 points. So thankfully, we pick up a win in our first home game up in the Bundesliga. And more importantly, we beat a team who offered us a job interview during the off-season. So maybe the next time a club does come after us, especially if it's one here in the Bundesliga, but that is a good result, making up for that late defeat there at Cologne. We pick up a win over Hoffenheim and are sitting smack bang mid-table after 2 games played. So a pretty decent start here to our first season up in the Bundesliga with Jahn Regensburg. Would have been better if we didn't bottle that lead there at Cologne. Probably deserved a draw from that game, but then pick up a 2-1 win over Hoffenheim. Would have been pretty filthy if they came back off the back of that very soft free kick that we did concede, but thankfully we've got 3 points from our first 2 games, and it does mean we sit pretty much smack bang mid-table there in the Bundesliga, actually above Leipzig, Bayern Munich, and Bayer Leverkusen. Not too sure what's going on there. Bayern Munich, what is up with them? They lost Berlin off the back of that draw with Hoffenheim. Maybe we're better than Pep's men. Don't say that, Shaun. That's a stupid thing to say. We probably get thrashed by them when we take them on. And also Bayer Leverkusen not going too well, albeit they've taken on some pretty good teams so far, so I won't read too much into that. But so far, we're looking pretty good and certainly a lot better than the other teams that did come up from this via Bundesliga. Nuremberg got beaten 6-0 by Gladbach, who to be fair are top of the table, obviously, with that goal differential, but theirs are not too good, so fingers crossed off the back of that opening win that we picked up, maybe can start to put a gap on those 2 teams and make sure that hopefully there won't be any relegation danger in our first season here up in the Bundesliga. But I think that will do it for today's episode. Solid start there. I think 4 points maybe will be a bit more fair, but unfortunately got done there late first up by Cologne, but then we bounced back when we took on Hoffenheim. If you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Now, what we come back for in tomorrow's episode off the back of that Hoffenheim win, I'm feeling slightly confident, so I might play the next 12 camera. Union Berlin away, they did just beat Bayern, but up until then, I thought that was a team that maybe we could get something off of, even though that one is away from home, expected to finish in 15th. And then we've got Nuremberg, the way they've started, that has to be a must-win game. So fingers crossed we might come back tomorrow with a few more points in the bank, and we'll be sitting still mid-table on that Bundesliga table, and we can take on Wolfsburg as well as Augsburg, because those 2 teams expect to do a little bit better in this upcoming season. I'm pretty sure to Augsburg might be a little bit of a derby. Not too sure if that's going to pop up here on the board, but indeed it is in the supporter culture, and they are our rivals. So that might be a little bit of a derby there second up in tomorrow's episode, and we'll take on Wolfsburg before then as well. But those 2 teams I'm expecting to be top half of the table. Indeed, Augsburg, they should be 8th, and they've started off quite nicely. And Wolfsburg, they're supposed to be around there as well, finishing in 6th. Those might be some tougher games we've got coming up in tomorrow's episode. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.